Joefest 2025. That's, big thank you to Ed and everybody who's put this on. I know sometimes it gets lost on a lot, but this is an incredible amount of work to put these shows on. So while it may seem like it's not a big deal, like this is a year's worth of work for this. And he threw a hell of a party and a lot of people showed up. So congrats to the whole Joefest crew for throwing the party and having everybody here. So a little bit, I guess, on talking about this. There's really only one thing you guys really want to talk about, and that's Reaction Plus.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really wants to talk about much else. So, well, there's some stuff we can talk about. We kind of gave up the ghost by showing off everything yesterday and making things available, but there's some stuff to talk about a little bit. I think it's important to talk about the fact that, I was like, 1 year ago, though, nothing existed. A year ago, we were still just looking at blue, prototypes. So there's a lot that's been done in a year. And so it's really cool for us and hopefully for you guys, but we've gotten a lot done in a very short amount of time. So from those prototypes, as you guys are well aware, then Wave 1 came out. We did the Cobra Bat, Snake Eyes, Cobra Commander with his silver stripe finally, and the blonde-haired cover girl. That was in October. We also did the Tomax and Zaymot in their suits. That was a Big Bad Toy Store, mostly exclusive. They ended up buying most of those. Another great set. So then it only came till this year that we got more. So Duke, Fatal Fluffy, Serpentor, and Raymar, that was January of this year. So only 5 months ago. March is when we did Micronauts. This was a really interesting one. We didn't know how this was gonna go. For me, I loved Micronauts growing up, and obviously the articulation pattern of the Microman figure seems to match with him really well with G.I. Joe, considering that they're related entities. And scaling down Baron Karza and Biotron to sort of match that 3 3/4 scale was really cool. But that did really well. We were really excited about that. April, so just a few months ago, we did the Arctic Cobra Commander, the cartoon accurate Wild Bill, the dark blue Snake Eyes, and Zartan Cold Slither. I think Zartan was definitely the one that everybody was waiting for and had been asking about forever. So that was a lot of fun. Our Target exclusive, which is the Cobra Bat Python Patrol. Now, just because he's here, I'm bad with the James, right? Jason, I'm sorry. Jason has a few extra Python patrols that he has found that he brought just for people that have missed them. So if you missed a Python patrol, talk to him. Yeah, but and then what we just showed off yesterday was first of the movie wave, which was Falcon, Jinx, Cobra Law Royal Guard, and Cobra Commander Once a Man. So in a very short amount of time, we've gotten 17 G.I. Joe figures out, as well as 2 Micronauts. So a lot of cool stuff. So that's what everybody knows. I can't show you much else, unfortunately, but we can talk a little bit about San Diego. So, oh, wait, there's the Target exclusive. I got ahead of myself. So that's the Python Patrol. But this is what's coming out, some of the stuff that's for San Diego Comic-Con. So we have the Cobra Bat Time Bomb from the comic. And as you can see on the packaging, he has exploded through the comic. You can see all the torn pages below him. But when Cobra Commander sends out his bats strapped with dynamite, this is what they look like. So that's coming from the comic. And then we have the DIC colorway of Serpentor, just to really mess with everybody. So that is what's happening at San Diego this year. And then there's going to be a lot of excitement around Cold Slither. This is all that's been shown and all I can really talk about right now. But if you know that there's a concert that's happening, and there's going to be a lot more exciting stuff around Cold Slither. So be on the lookout for more Cold Slither. As far as the future of Reaction Plus, fall, we've got the Universal Monsters Wave 1. So you guys have seen the test shots down below of Wolfman, Dracula, and Creature. So really cool, and a great likeness of Bela Lugosi there on Dracula. And then upcoming in October, we'll have G.I. Joe Wave 5, so that'll be your next wave. On December, we will get Micronauts Wave 2. January is G.I. Joe Wave 6. And February is Back to the Future Wave 1. There was actually a bunch of other stuff that I had in here that I was told I'm not allowed to show you guys. So more than anything, I'm showing you San Diego and telling you when the next waves are coming out. And from there, it's really going to be more Q&A from you guys. Now, a bunch of you have already come by and asked most of the questions. So unfortunately, this is much shorter than we had originally hoped it to be. But this is what I can tell you guys today about what's going on. So there's multiple more waves of Joe on their way, multiple waves of Micronauts and Back to the Future, along with the San Diego reveals, which is probably the thing you were most interested in, quite honestly. So
Wave 5, top one on that list, is that stuff that we've not seen yet?
No. Nobody's seen anything from Wave 5 or Wave 6. I mean, you didn't see Wave 4 until yesterday.
I'm not very good at keeping count.
So that's a very brief rundown. And I'm sorry that I couldn't share more. I had to pull a bunch of stuff out today. But I can jump into any questions or anything else.
Are there, with G.I. Joe Ultimates, we know that the Python Patrol Destro and the Tiger Force Flint are hitting pre-order now.
Pre-order now. They'll be in warehouse next week.
So obviously there's a big pool available of repaints there, but also this is something, since you've introduced the Deluxes, I've always wondered, is there a possibility of deluxe format G.I. Joes?
There's definitely an opportunity there. It's a slightly trickier thing because classified is sold at mass retail and most of the deluxe have been going into the back shelf of Target. So we've been discussing it, but trying to figure out how to word it properly, but the initial feeling is sort of like they wouldn't want something on shelf that would compete with classified at the same price point and the same scale in the same retailer. So while Ultimates have been fine because we're working at a different price point and a different distribution model, so it's not showing up at the same retailer. We've talked a lot about the opportunity for that to happen in the future, but we haven't landed on when and where that can happen yet.
And that was mainly the point of the Deluxes, was to get them accessible and
to get them down to a price point where you kind of have what we describe often as you have collectors and fans. Collectors buy fan product as well as collector product, but fans don't necessarily buy collector product. So you've got a guy that walks into a Target and is willing to buy, Lion-O, for example, at $34.99. I just wanted a blister on a card. I don't care about anything else. And then you have another guy that's like, no, I need it to be like this. If that hand is even this far off, it's wrong. Everything's got to be perfect. Those are two different people. And so really Deluxe was like, how do we bring the excitement we have at the collector level down to something that a more casual fan can buy and be excited about?
a little more of an impulse buy.
It's just that we're at Joefest, so we're talking to people that care about the nerdy details, and the reality is that there's 10 times as many people that I just want Snake Eyes and Cobra Commander, maybe a Destro. I don't care about anybody else. There's far more of those people. If you think about the people that you may know that have collections where it's like they've got an Optimus, a Megatron, a this, a that, and that's what they like. It's more, how do we get those people excited about what we're doing,
and possibly hook them into the rest.
Hey, that's a nice little side hustle if we can get it. But I would love to be doing more with that. I think really with Ultimates we have to be very sort of careful, simply because Classified is such a good line and it is so robust, and most people literally can only afford one 6-inch scale line at a time, and most people have chosen Classified.
It seems like y'all done some vehicles with the dog sled for the mass device, and y'all try to do the big mothership. Is there a plan to try to get more vehicles in now that you're using the O-rings and you have the flexibility to move the figures and posability? And also your business model seems to be you find figures that really weren't produced the first time around. We're seeing Jinx with their mask off, you're seeing a different representation of Falcon. Would that give you some opportunities to create vehicles that we haven't ever seen before, or modified vehicles? For instance, like a HISS tank with a different weapons platform? It's kind of a long question, I apologize, but Is there anything y'all are thinking about?
All right, what we're thinking about? Hey, we think about all of it. What we've got in the plans. I think the thing with G.I. Joe, which is very different from almost every other toy line, is the vehicles are so integral and they made so many. So the hardest part we've actually had is like, what vehicles do you not have? Or have you not had the opportunity to get? Which is sort of why we went Dog Sled, as you brought up, and then we went Mothership, because they're just about every other vehicle out there has been made. The modified HISS tank is definitely something we've looked at, especially if you could have, the Cobra Commander leader version and everything. Vehicles are a really tricky one in general. If you think about everybody that you know that collects figures, out of that, it's like 1 out of every 10 might actually still collect the vehicles as well, just because of the sheer space that they take up. And so how do you get enough critical mass behind a vehicle? I really like the vehicles and the play sets, as I think most people have probably seen at this point with Cat's Lair and with Snake Mountain, which are the size of small cities. I think they need their own apartment in some places. So yes, I would love to be making more vehicles. With G.I. Joe, it's just really tricky to find that sweet spot that hasn't been done already. And to your other sort of question is like, yeah, we really do try to make the stuff that you don't have. Like, you don't need me to make you another Snake Eyes or make you another Dusty or something. Like, you have that figure. What do you not have? That's really what I'm focused on trying to give you and try to bring to market.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
A couple of the recent figures are out or revealed. The Once a Man, Commander, the Cold Slither, the Sartan, and in classified scale, those are two other recent announcements or releases. Is that lucky happenstance, or are you working quite closely to try and mirror what's happening in some of those plans?
No, I think, obviously Hasbro owns G.I. Joe. So we work on G.I. Joe at their, I'm blanking on the word, but at their convenience, if you will. So we are actually, for us, it takes about 15 months to bring something to market. So we're working on stuff like right now, what the team is actually working on is what comes out after San Diego Comic-Con next year. So even when we get into line plans, what we're actually working on is what are we making in 2027 right now with Hasbro. So we're all working on line plans well in advance. And so if there are moments or key things that they want to key into, we'll discuss back and forth of when's the right time to bring something to market or when it isn't. For the most part, we're sort of off on our little space on the side. But yeah, there's a couple times where we line up and like, okay, like Cold Slither's coming to San Diego, they're having the concert, like what's the road to Cold Slither look like? Okay, they're making the announcement, we've brought our figures, they're making theirs. Like, there's stuff that we're gonna work on together to sort of get there, so to sort of raise the profile. So it's sort of collaborative, but at the same time, we both have our own agendas, and we just make sure that they don't step on each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, can you let us know if Micronauts Wave 2 is that going to be like an exclusive or general?
It'll be a wide release, the same as the first wave. Yeah. But the same thing with the first wave, we're like, I don't know how many people remember Micronauts. At this point, you're getting into a line that is a lot older. Like when we did Planet of the Apes, I was like, everybody remembers Planet of the Apes. It's like, no. Those people are really old and don't remember Planet of the Apes anymore. So it's like, oh, okay. So we were just nervous about how the reception to Micronauts was going to be. Obviously, leading with Baron Karza, you're leading with the Darth Vader of Micronauts to a degree, for at least for American collectors. And so we felt pretty good about it, but it ended up being much more popular than we expected. So now it's like, all right, let's get on Micronauts. There's a lot to do there.
So does that mean that Wave 2 could be more than 2 figures, or maybe some future waves will be more than 2 at a time?
It's future waves.
Okay.
The wave for December will only be 2 figures, but future waves we're working on as well. So I can't talk about anything other than what we've sort of shown and everything, but there's a lot more Micronauts that we've got our hands on. And same thing with G.I. Joe.
I was curious if some of the stuff you already have licenses for, like Thundercats or Ninja Turtles, you thought about doing
Probably thought about it, but
Have we thought about it? Oh, yes.
O-rings have you,
There would be a lot, that would make a lot of sense in some cases, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I can't say anything more than that, but it would sure make a lot of sense. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, Super Cyborg Micronauts would be very cool.
Once again, I don't disagree with you. The question of it, are there more than 12 people that want that? Those 12 people are going to be psyched. But yeah, Super Cyborg is a really interesting one because like it'll either do extremely well or not at all. And there's not a lot of middle ground, and you never really know how it's going to roll. It's been really interesting. Like obviously the Batmobile that we did phenomenal. Krang did phenomenal, some of the other ones, but there's been a couple where it's like, that didn't work at all. That's really weird.
How did the Snake get? They got the Crimson repaint?
Yeah, we did that for Hasbro Pulse UK. Snake did okay. Actually, the Bat that we originally did really well. So that was a pleasant surprise there. And I think that was also a bit more of just like, nobody's made anything like this, and it's a Bat, so I have to get it. So.
When you guys were thinking about making Cobra Mothership, you were going to offer a Cobra Viper 5 pack for sale.
Yep.
Is that still hoping to come out of future date?
Obviously, we've got all those figures sculpted and sort of ready to go. I think where we've sort of been with that is like, when is the right time to sort of pull all that stuff back in? I've been surprised how many people this weekend have asked me like, maybe it's time to try the Mothership again. Now that people are sort of believe that the O-ring line is real, that they might be more open to it than they were in the past. I do think that was a bit where at that time, because we had done so much reaction figures, that this was not a line that people collected, and so they weren't willing to open that door that maybe they might be now. So there's some stuff in the back of my mind about, and more so obviously this weekend with having a surprising amount of people ask about the Mothership of like, could we try the Mothership again? Be a real shame if we tried it again and it didn't work the second time. So kind of cross my fingers on that. But if we don't end up going forward with that, yeah, we need to bring back those officers and everything. So yeah. We're not going to we won't let a good sculpt go to waste.
This is probably not a question that you'll be able to answer very easily or non-vaguely, but I think when you were teeing up the movie wave, I think you described it as the first of the movie wave.
The first of the movie waves? Yes, that would be correct.
And I'll just leave the thought hanging out there. There's characters out there in the movie.
There's some really main characters that aren't in that wave. It would be a real shame if they didn't get made. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same ones. It's like, these three, where are they?
Yeah.
All three of them. One's white, one's purple, one's in a sports uniform. Why aren't they here? It's like, that would make no sense not to make, wouldn't it? It'd be sad if they came out in the next wave. Yes, sir.
Understanding you're at the Rosie of Hasbro, I'd love to see Jim and the Joe and Victor team in Reaction Plus.
We've talked a lot about throwing back on some of the old 12-inch stuff, and would people be into it or they not be into it? Like, I'm going to do a bad job and somebody's going to call me out on this, but it's Bullet Head, right?
Bullet Man.
Yeah, like Bullet Man, like, I think he would look awesome. Does anybody care? Does anybody remember? I don't know.
I know you'd make at least 2 sales.
Yeah, all right, well,
Obviously 2 at minimum.
3? All right. He's going to keep 1 on card, so there you go. Yeah, I think that there's some cool stuff in that old 12-inch stuff. I'm old enough to have had some of that stuff hand-me-down. I like it. I just don't know if the person coming to it has any familiarity with it other than the fact that it's historically part of G.I. Joe. There was always that great chasm between the 12-inch guys and the 3 3/4 guys, and we'll never talk to each other kind of world. I don't know. I think it would be really fun to get back into some of that, especially the later stuff, because it's weird, you know? And that weird stuff is cool. But nothing at the moment on plans, but I like the idea. I just don't know if the fan base is, if that's what they want or not. That's fair? I don't know.
So you touched on Action Force with the Red Jackal and the Red Laser reaction figures.
Yes.
Any chance we could see any of that stuff in Reaction Plus?
I would think that yes. The answer, it's not going to be right away, and I think it's finding that fine line where I'm not just remaking an Action Force. I think that there's some really cool stuff that happened in Action Force that isn't O-ring. That's 5 POA that could get translated over. That's really fun. So I think if we were going to go down that route, it wouldn't be like make Coral, like you can get Coral. It would be, let's make something you don't have.
That's where some of the cool, weirder stuff is.
Yeah.
5 POA.
Yeah, exactly. Space aliens, guys with buckets on their heads.
So like the Sunbow cartoon had a lot of iconic locations in it.
Mm-hmm.
Have y'all thought of doing like vignette type play sets maybe that were smaller, that didn't have the same kind of footprint as like a larger vehicle would have?
Quite frankly, we've talked a lot about different things like that, but we're really only just, I realize it's wave 4 and like, we're a year into it, but like a year ago we were still at just blue plastic. So in terms of where we are, it's like, okay, how much demand is there? How many people are coming in for this line? How big can we go with it? I think more and more we're getting much more confident that we could get into possibly vehicles or play sets of some sort. Or that's the hard part, is like, I don't want to make the whole Cobra base because it'll be gigantic, but can we do some smaller things? I don't think the right translation is what we've done a bunch in Reaction, which is like sort of the Land of the Jawas playset reinterpreted. But there's something in there that could work where you got backgrounds and then just bases for them. And if you could make it modular so you could have different locations, I think it would be really cool.
Yeah, because I really like some of the set themes that you've got, like the one with where they're all in the subway, and maybe
Yes.
that was more of a, like you could actually take it out
And put them in.
not that one specifically, but like a vignette of the like sort of like the Pyramid of Darkness. There's
Oh man,
little
I love that set.
computer centers or other just locations you see again and again and again in the cartoon.
Yeah. No, I like I said, I think we're only a year into this as of today, and so we're only really getting emboldened by it, if you will. Same thing, it's like, we have a pretty good feeling that people are going to want movie figures, but we don't know for sure. Okay, now we pretty much know.
And also, I can't wait to see what you do to fix Colossus, because he's been laying on his back and a lot of times collecting for a very long time.
One step at a time. one step at a time.
It's a low bar.
I'm not talking smack on any old stuff. Like, they did it. We got it. It's on our shelves. We love it. Maybe we'll do something. Maybe,
With a few waves of Reaction Plus under your belt now, in terms of like seeing a finished product and what sort of works and maybe what's less successful, is there any kind of lessons you've learned in particular about how that's informing some of the future development?
Yes and no. I mean, the good news is all the figures have been really well received. And thank you to everybody here, anybody watching, anybody that cared or picked them up. So that's great. I think when we've thought we've been more esoteric, things like Fatal Fluffy or Raymar, and we're like, I'm not sure enough people are going to care or not. We've been surprised how many people do care, as opposed to sort of like a core Joe, if you will. And then you get into something like Wild Bill, where you're like, well, we're going to make it cartoon accurate paint, but it's sort of just, he's not just a regular Joe, but he's a regular Joe. Is that going to be enough for people? Like, what's going to be enough for somebody to say, I need that and I want that? I think we all believed in it, but we weren't sure how focused it would be. Like, I'll try to think of maybe a parallel example, like when we get into Godzilla and we talk about some of the more esoteric monsters. There's certain ones that will sell like crazy and certain ones that you can't give away. And like after a while you start to learn the psyche and the rhyme of the reason of like why certain monsters sell well and certain monsters don't. And sort of we're in that same bit with G.I. Joe a little bit. Like we have a pretty good idea. Like if we were talking about reaction, I know exactly what that guy that buys a reaction Joe is willing to buy and not willing to buy. So when you get into O-ring, obviously we're talking to a different, similar, but in oftentimes a different group of people. Like how weird do they want to get? How accurate do they want to get? How far do they want to push the envelope? And it seems like for the most part, everybody's here for the majority of it. So that's really, that just gives us that much more opportunity. Oh, I went to sleep. Not that it was an exciting screen. So I'll go back to an exciting screen if it lets me. There, I'll leave it on that one. I think you had one more, or no? No.
I don't remember what it was.
That's okay. That's okay.
I can ask an nasty question if you like. So you mentioned Wild Bill, and there was a little bit of controversy about the box art on that one.
Oh, with his hand? All right. Everybody wants to claim it's AI because it's extra fingers. It's not. So when we get the paintings from people, they're all still painted. They always need to be tweaked. All the physiology needs to be tweaked. It's like, oh, it's this great painting, but it's like, wait, his hand is too close to his head, and so we're moving stuff around all the time. So with Wild Bill, what happens is we have his hand is holding the gun, but it was too far up the handle, so we were moving it down 1 finger length. They moved it down 1 finger length, and then we're like cleaning up the Photoshop, and it looked good, so they left it. And now you have 4 fingers. Because it's exactly 1 finger over perfectly. So there's no AI going on in any of it. Like, because Jason Edmondson did most of the reaction paintings. We've got a couple different artists that work on these paintings. Like, you're not going to get that out of AI. So that's where Wild Bill's 6-finger salute came from. And ironically, the guy that did that work was my brother.
With the Photoshop work.
Yeah, the Photoshop work.
Do you, I guess, as a company, have like a philosophy about AI artwork more generally?
Well, for us, we've hired artists for all this stuff. I mean, we have all the original paintings to these things. Like, we're all toy collectors. Like, everybody here would be like, oh, I'd love to have one of those original paintings. We're like, we're going to commission these paintings and we're going to keep these paintings. So I think AI in general is a tool, and it will be used more and more and more, no different than when computers came into design and everything else like that. It gets you a rough pretty well. It doesn't get you a final of anything. We use it a bit here and there for photographs to strip out backgrounds. I mean, people didn't call it AI, but for the last couple of years, you could just go into Photoshop and ask it to strip out a background and it would strip it out. What do you think that was? Same thing. It's just machine learning. So there's bits and pieces of it that we use, but we don't use it in the artwork. Just because we want the paintings. We're all toy collectors. We want the source afterwards. I want the prototypes. I want the original paintings. I want all that stuff.
Just so I'm sure, like the slide you had up there for a while was your timeline. Where were the Universal monsters on that? When are they shipping?
Between September and October of this year. And those are plastic shots down in the booth downstairs. All right. I don't have any grand secrets, unfortunately, other than these 2 to show you guys today. But one more reveal for Joefest, right?
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Thanks, everybody. That's it. That's it.